up. I'm trying to see if I can see any little 5-year-olds. I see them beginning to walk up, and they'll be coming up to pay tribute to Mkhulu and saying something sweet. Maybe the choir can give us something joyful as we invite them. Welcome to join in whenever you hear beautiful songs being sung by the choir. We do invite you. We have the young SAA fledglings who will be waiting in the meantime. Are you going to introduce yourself, Nana?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. All protocol observed. My name is Kopano Bupap. I am 5 years old. I would like to share a poem with you. I am an African child, born with a skin the color of chocolate, bright, brilliant, and articulate, strong and bold. I am gifted, talented enough to be the best. I am an African child, often the decade of pity. My future is now confined to charity. Give me a dream of the laughter. Give me a dream, a door of opportunity. I will thrive. I am an African child. Do not hide my fault. Show me my wrong. I'm like any other. Teach me to dream and I'll become. I am an African child. I am the son, daughter of the soil, rich in texture and content, full of potential for a better tomorrow. Teach me discipline, teach me character, teach me hard work, teach me to think like the star within me. I am an African child. I can be extraordinary. Call me William Kamkwamba, the inventor. Give me a library with books. Give me a scrapyard and discarded electronics. Give me a broken bicycle plus the freedom to be me, and I will build you a windmill. I am an African child. We are the new generation, not afraid to be us. Uniquely gifted, black and talented, shining like the stars we are. We are the children of Africa, making the best of us. Yes, I am an African child.
A standing ovation for the children of Africa. Thank you. Thank Thank you, thank you. That is the future. These are our future leaders. Thank you very much to the SAA for that. We now have a musical item. And after the musical item, we will ask Lindy Mabuza, Ambassador Mabuza, please to make her way. And I ask you please to join the music. Oh no, please join the music.
Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa and Mrs. Ramaphosa, Mrs. Zanele Mbeki, Your Excellency, President Motlanthe and Mrs. Motlanthe, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Honorable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, it's the power of Lindy as you see on stage right now. Let me start with something unusual for me. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples a feast of rich food and choice wines, juicy, rich food and pure choice wines. He will destroy death forever. The Lord God will wipe away the tears from all faces. We said it's a celebration, and I thought I should start with this verse from Isaiah, which celebrates our brother, my brother, your father, your uncle, your comrade. You are celebrating him reaching that mountain of afterlife. He's being joyfully welcomed there. As Mandela said, the first place I'll ask for when I get to heaven is the ANC organization. Well, he's with them now, but he's with his angels, he's with his God. He died so beautifully, having had all the rights for a person going away, I think he's worthy of the celebration we want to give him here. I've written a long speech. I wrote it with the children in mind. The Msimang children, because I've heard quite a number of them saying, "Auntie, we are orphans now." You can't be orphans. I do understand what it means to lose parents, but I don't know where one gets the strength when they lose two parents, one after the other. But I am sure, because of the work of your father, therein lies your strength. He made me who I am today. You won't believe it, but he did. I'm part of his products, as Nkosazane is, but in a different way. How did he make me? He was a student at Roma, Pius XII University, and he left Roma because he had a higher call. I'm sure there are people who said, why does he do such a stupid thing, leaving college, when everybody was hungry for education? But he left for a good reason. He had a higher call, a call to work for his people, for our liberation. Well, there I came to Pius XII 2 years after he left. And students at that time, at least those from South Africa, because we had students from all over Africa, including Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, the two Rhodesias at the time, but Zimbabwe and Zambia. But we thought how lucky we are to be at Roma, because they had left a legacy there. When Thomas Nkobi and Mendi had been students there, they had taught the students colonialism, they had taught them Pan-Africanism, they had taught them about apartheid, because those things were not normally accessible at universities in South Africa. So when we arrived, we had the advantage, because they had been there, they had left a tradition of students teaching students outside of the classrooms, and we're lucky to get part of that education. And then the next step, where do I see Mendi? I arrived in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, 1977. I'd given up a job in the United States, a secure job for that matter, to work full-time for the ANC. And there was a young lady who was assigned to me, Zandi, and she told me, somebody wants to see you. I didn't know who it was. And this gentleman came in a khaki color safari shirt. I think it was the tradition at the time. Many ANC comrades were wearing those safari khaki color. If it was going to be checkered, everybody was going to be wearing a checkered shirt or a safari suit. So the gentleman appears. The minute he sees me, he says, "How? Lo fana no Mendi kangakuvela phi?" And I say to Zandi, "Who's he?" She says, "It's Comrade Thomas Nkobi." my hero from school. I'm in front of him here in Tanzania. Can you imagine my nerves? Can you imagine the heartbeats at the time? This was a dream come true. I don't know what I thought when I said I was going to join the ANC full time. That was the first present I got. And the next thing, he says, okay, I'm going to show you this man I say you look alike. There came Mendi. Says, ngempela, ufana nabagithi lo. So Mendi, for years, has been my twin brother. You don't see any resemblance? And the next move for me was to go to Lusaka. And in Lusaka, a wonderful surprise that I find my brother there, Stanislas Sangweni. Sangweni and Mabuza are brother and sister because we have a common father, Mekalum Kambule. And at the same time, Sangweni, my brother, introduces me to a nephew. And the nephew is Mendi Msimang. I just thought, how wonderful it is to come to the ANC and find your family immediately. It doesn't happen to most people. So this Mendi Msimang, I find out later, is really related by blood to the Msimang I left in Tanzania. And that Msimang and Mavuso have a common ancestor. The ancestor is Selby Msimang. And this Selby Msimang was in 1912 at the ANC founding conference in Mangaung. That's pedigree stuff. ANC pedigree. They don't boast about it because they are too humble, and rightly so. It's not, you don't go by the title or your parents, you go by your own deeds. But it's good to know that they didn't let their ancestor down. But now, this year, my family found out that at that founding conference of the ANC, there was one president, Ulangal Balele Dube, who was chosen in absentia. And then 7 presidents of the ANC were selected for different regions of the country. Selby Msimang gets Pietermaritzburg. And our own great-grandfather, Manguma Simeon Kambule, is assigned to Northern Natal. So I also discovered I have that pedigree too. Yeah, but who started it? It's Mendi. Even before Mendi, though, to be honest, the first time at Roma again, I got attracted to the idea of the ANC was when, in a newspaper, we saw students on the front pages of Star and Daily Mail, Rand Daily Mail. And those students were in a train, waving us goodbye. They were off to go into exile. We didn't understand, and some people were trying to say they were influenced by communism. It took took a professor, an Irish priest in my class, who was my English teacher. Some of you who were at Roma would know Father Tui. Father Tui sat us down to say, what do you think about those students going away? The hands were up. We think they're going to, they were said to be going to Russia, to the Soviet Union. At the time when apartheid was hot on Rooi Gevaar and Swart Gevaar. So the black people combined with the redness of their politics. That's double jeopardy for apartheid and there. But the professor, the priest, said, what did you say when 2 of our students left here because they got scholarships to go to Ireland? What did we say? Because we thought it was good. He says, what did you say when 2 of our students got scholarships to go to Canada? It was good. So what's the problem? If they go to Russia and they are going to be doctors, they are going to be engineers, I think I could understand them. I hope you also understand when I say I am a product of Mendi. I love him dearly. I can't add any more to what everybody has said and is going to say about him. I just thought, for the sake of the children, you must know we are very related. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Sis Lindy. The 3 Lindys here often got Uncle Mendi confused. You'd say to Gugu, Gugu, Lindy. And Gugu would put Uncle Mendi through to me. Hi, ngifuna lo omunye uLindy. We will now have a musical item from our SAAF choir, please.
So have no fear.
absolutely incredible. And on your behalf, I'd like to say we want to join the Msimang family and say, oh, Uncle Mendi, we love you. You are our superstar. With that, I'd like to call on Shaga Sisulu, the first grandchild to Uncle Mendi. We are now on to the tributes from the family. Shaga, born in Germany, brought up in Lusaka, no longer an African child, but an African grown man. Over to you, Shaga. And I love you both.
Mkhulu, Nonhlanhla, Mabuto's eldest, has an abiding memory of you and the conversations that you shared, how they were a safe space, safe from judgment. She will miss how those conversations always gave her hope and spurred her on to be strong and weather all. You never gave up on her, so how could she? Temba, Shaga's son, bears this out. He says he experienced his most poignant memory or moment with you a week ago. Last Friday, he came home just having passed a test to become a financial advisor with Discovery, and he chokes up at the memory of you taking his hands in yours and saying, "Siya phambili manje, asayemuva." 2 days later, you stepped forward into the light. There's no turning back for him now. Ketiwe, Pulani's youngest, also says that you were of great support, helping her not just with homework, but also supporting and comforting her in her struggles against the powers that be, her parents. She remembers fondly the years you would all go on holiday together. She, being the youngest and not allowed to do many things, and you, being the oldest and not allowed to do many things, would spend hours together in conversation around the swimming pool. Kindred spirits, playing Crazy 8. I'm sure you let her win. I remember the many times that we had games night at your home and you always let the youngsters win. And you'd smile and wink when I looked in your direction, confirming it. Kaya, Makhosazana's youngest, will miss your wit and watching sports with you on the weekends. Soccer, of course, or tennis, or Grand Prix. He especially loved the days on which Chelsea, his team played against Man United. Your team of choice ever since your time in London. You demonstrated great resilience, Mkhulu, in the face of his taunting, him and Ndeni and Nati, telling you to switch sides to Chelsea because they called it the winning team. Little did you know, of course you let them win. Sizwe, Mabuto's youngest, vaguely recalls you visiting his home in Germany when he was a toddler many years ago. He has much more vivid and fond memories of a trip he took with you to the farm. He says there you taught him about the land and the significance of the land, having land, and the responsibility of farming. On the way there, Caesar recalls that you played and sang along to beautiful jazz. Many will recall that you were a great singer, and I thank you for passing that gift on to me, Mkhulu. Mteni, Zimbabwe and Africa's eldest, has a similar memory of traveling with you to the farm, listening to music. But on this particular trip, things went horribly wrong. On the way, the car started to smoke and ground to a halt. It turned out that the petrol attendant had put the wrong fuel in the car. And so you sat there waiting for the AA for hours with your son Zimbabwe and your grandson, just talking. Man, you were a great conversationalist. And you were so proud of that farm. I remember you being excited about a loan that you had applied for and that had been granted for you to buy some equipment and stock. And I wondered, tongue in cheek, how are you so excited about a loan when you've raised millions, Still need to get a loan. And you just wagged your finger. Nothing fell off your table. Uzwe, Zuki's eldest, says she will miss the kiss that she would plant on your forehead every time she saw you. She loved that she could always just be a little girl with you. She loved also that you always reminded of her granny, Koko Mantu. And her thoughts that the two of you are now going to be together again makes her very happy. Nati, Zimbabwe's youngest, misses your laugh. He says you had this deep, hearty laugh with a bullfrog voice. He says that the past few years living with you, he experienced a house full of laughter brought on by wonderful banter. Your razor-sharp wit honed his. He says he had no choice but to get sharper or get left behind off the banter train. He's so far behind, Mkhulu. His most abiding memory is of the day that you accompanied him to his graduation. That morning, you hummed and sang louder than usual as you shuffled around the house. You see, he was thinking of skipping this graduation day, but the declaration that you had made, that you were going to buy a new suit, made up his mind for him. He would receive this certificate with you, for you, because through you and your gentle nudging, he completed his studies when he so often thought of not doing so. It was your joint achievement, he felt. So proud were you, Mkhulu. You were always so proud of our achievements, proud of our hard work. We felt that your love overflowed when we came to you with good results, and it spurred us on. Zuki's youngest calls you a unicorn. Perhaps you were so divine as to be mythical. Collating these memories, I felt really proud of the work that I had done at teaching you to be a grandfather. As the firstborn of Dr. Makosazana Msimang, your firstborn, I remember you were an excellent student, showing me kindness the first time we met in Dar es Salaam. We sat in silence because we couldn't speak the same language. And then you gave me a Coke. I had just come from communist Russia. This was manna. In the years since, I have always left your side with something sweet, more knowledge, wisdom, truth, You shared with me deep histories of our families, of the ANC. I remember once when I was anxious that my family accept my decision to become a traditional healer, which of course you endorsed, and you told me of Baba Robert Msimang, your father's brother, who was a renowned healer. And that gave me comfort. When I spoke to you about my personal problems, you had a ready ear and a lot of advice. I remember us chuckling together when I reported that Mam Simang was going to have an official funeral. How, Tabizolo? 2 wives with state funerals. How did you do it? I'm not going to tell these people what your response was, because that is my final and most abiding lesson. Your discretion, you could be counted upon to keep any secrets, as everyone here knows. And also your humility. You wagged that finger of yours at any suggestion that we record your life story. In our last conversation a few weeks ago, I revealed that I had begun to understand and want and wish to emulate your method, the method in your maddening silence. Because you were powerful not for the noise that you made, you didn't make any, but for the silence and for the deep work that you did away from the scenes, behind the scenes. You would deflect attention, and there are always many attention seekers who would take up that space. And in their guise, you would remain a juggernaut behind the scenes, an encyclopedia of ANC secrets. And so I told you that from you I have learned that power and influence aren't loud, as I'd always thought they were, and acted accordingly, but that it is the silent, never-ending work. And as I said this, we sat in silence, just as the first day that we met, and you nodded, and you whispered, "Now you've got it." Thank you, Mkulu, for the lessons, the support, the examples, the blessing of leaving behind a good name. Lala ngoxolo, Thabizolo, Nonkosi, Mthwa, Mhlahlela, Inhloko zenduku zabavu, isisinda sisophuku sohlula madoda, olimpande lumkenkenge.
Thank you, Mshana Shaka Sisulu. Always the flamboyant speaker, saying the things that some of us cannot say or dare to say, and also sharing the conversations amongst grandchildren. Thank you so much. That was really rich, a rich tribute to your grandfather. We spoke about how much Uncle Mendi loved music. He loved South African jazz. He loved all types of music, as we heard earlier. We now invite Ndate Jonas Kwangwa, who's going to come and set the stage ablaze, I hope. And he'll be also together with the South African Air Force Band and the choir. So we're just going to indulge ourselves and wallow in music. Stand up if you want to join in dancing. Sing along if you want to sing along. As we said, we celebrate 90 years of a great man, Mendi Msimang. I call on Jonas Kwangwa.
Thank you so much, Uncle Jonas. That was beautiful. Jonas Gwangwa, ladies and gentlemen, we can give him another hand and a round of applause. That took us down memory lane, didn't it? I could see from the way you were all swooning, and especially the president, I saw you swooning there. We're now going to call on the grandkids. We had the grandkids reading the obituary, but for now we're going to now call on Mendi Msimang. And I'll call also Mendi Msimang and Mendi Msimang to come up onto the stage. This is your opportunity to read your poem and letters to Mkhulu. Are they ready? Maybe the choir can sing them on and give them something joyful to step up onto the stage. So once again, we have Mjele, who will read a poem and then a letter to Grandpa from Fezegile and a short message from Mdeni after this song.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President, Cabinet members, Premier of Gauteng, Acting Chief of the South African National Defence Force, members of the SANDF, fellow mourners, members of the media, family, all protocol observed. I have two poems for my grandfather. The one was the first poem I ever wrote him, and the last poem is a poem I read him the day he passed. The first one. Thick roads. We are driving through the gravel and dust of history at your table. A cup of warm tea is seated before me. Your voice is a spider car, weaving magic webs from an exhausting chest that steadily pushes us from story to story, stringing smoky webs from tree branches, thorn bushes, and wild fields of wheat. As we rattled along, some of the stories miss a center, withered away by time, or cut skillfully so that these intricate and fragile shapes hang precariously between tree branches. I look down at my webs lining my palms, wonder which lines I had to cut to survive, by which house or room or sea my webs dangle. We come to a stop. We are laughing now. It is also late. I tell you that I'll see you tomorrow. Your eyes twinkle. I want to cup your cheek. Feel the thick, long roads beneath your eyes seamlessly bleed into mine. But that is reserved for a touch we have to reach yet. I turn to go. You say my name from the door, and for a moment, you recognize your father in my face, a humming spider web caught in his hair. Thank you. 1,000 times good night. I tread down the thinning staircase of your name. Every barefooted step, a ship sinking in the civil war between your cells. I reach the basement, flooded, in water colored red-yellow from the seeping tap from your lung. You roll over to your side, cough, hard. My feet slip, and I collapse to my knees, begging we both be spared. Faith, a candle, extinguished in youth, but today my hands are matchsticks pushing the air between my palms into a wick. Stay. The year is dressing up to leave and has asked you for one more journey. Stay. Please. You face the ceiling, your ribs enduring sharp detonations from lack of oxygen. Stay. Your face blurs like a badly taken photograph. Spectre wisps lightly pulling at your withering cheeks, your white hair. Go. Into the blind night of dreams, the quiet pond of morphine, the red soil. You are open now, all your syllables glinting low, ember butterflies floating above a red-yellow sea, beginning to dry around my knees. Go. I will stay for you. For now, your name a purple bruise in my throat, a confession of a love that will never stop speaking to your shadow on your black rocking chair. Go.
This isn't going to be easy. Good morning, Mr. President, His Excellency President Kgalema Motlanthe as well, First Ladies, Cabinet Ministers, Premier of Gauteng, Acting Chief of the South African National Defence Force, members of the SANDF, fellow mourners, members of the media, family, friends, community. I'm going to try to keep this a bit short, mainly because I don't know if I have the strength right now to speak for long, but it'll be incredibly hard to summarize my relationship with my grandfather in a few minutes. As many of you know, this is the second time within 2 months we are here again as a family and community. First, we bid farewell to Ugog Agnes, and today we wish him Khulu well on his road to his next journey. And we celebrate that we got to walk with him on our respective paths for so long. I moved in with Granddad about 6 years ago when he decided to come back home to Pretoria, but didn't wish to deal with an empty house. I had always liked the man, even if I didn't know him all that well at the time. However, I had fond memories of playing Scrabble and Monopoly with him when I was much younger than that. We even spent a short while with him when we moved to Pretoria, and as we were homeschooled, he would always check in on our progress. Oh, and he always kept a well-stocked jar of biscuits literally labeled cookies, with the joke being that our hands were always in the cookie jar. And if he had forgotten to fill them up, he'd find a note on the fridge saying, "Granddad, your fridge is empty." And the next day, they would be magically refilled. Between late 2012 and late 2016, I had the honor to know what it meant to have a grandfather. In the beginning, his meticulousness was jarring, and for him, my penchant for disorder must have been frustrating. But we eventually found a lovely harmony. I would wake up to the sound of him humming or singing a song under his breath as he happily shuffled to the discussions arising. As he happily shuffled to the shower. We'd always sit at the dinner table with all sorts of discussions arising. Sometimes we'd be joined by the rest of the family. Other times he'd cook, and he insisted on cooking, and we'd enjoy it together. Back when we celebrated birthdays and holidays at Mendi Msimang's house in Calvin, he was at first nervous, and then later always excited to see his first wife. They would talk for a long while, or just sit in a comfortable silence. And then he'd join us, and we'd bring out some board games and eat cake. I think there's even a video of them singing together, possibly a nostalgic reminder of when they were courting, and she sang and he played the sax. You know, Grandpa believed in spoiling himself and others, and we all know he had an incredible sweet tooth. I remember once bringing him some donuts from Krispy Kreme to test, and then next week there was a full tray for whoever wanted to walk in and have some. And even if I rarely ate them, there was always a box of chocolates that cemented his position as the sweetest old man around. Some of the greatest lessons imparted to me was selflessness and loyalty. To live for the betterment of others around you in a capitalist mainframe isn't always easy. And whilst there was plenty of opportunity for him to self-enrich along the years, he remained steadfast and resolute in the fact that what he did for the advancement of all South Africans. Mzee, as we often called him, was fiercely loyal to the yellow, green, and black of his party of more than 70 years, and later on, the red from the boys of Manchester United. Naturally, he got disappointed when he saw scandal after scandal rock the party to the extent that he refused to buy newspapers for a short while. But his sharp political mind and his drive for integrity and ethics meant that he'd always find himself somehow in the loops of the goings-on in Luthuli House. About 4 years ago, right before he went to go shopping, he randomly said, "I'll give you until 90, but after that, I'm done." I asked him, "Why not more, Granddad?" And he said, "Because I'd have done everything I needed to, and you should all be all right by then." My grandfather was a punctual man, preferring to be a bit early, but never late. I don't stand here alone in celebrating his life while missing him deeply. Towards the end, he became more frank in his speech, discussing anything and everything that came to mind. One day, he told me that he was incredibly proud of you, Anzuki, that you had taken what he and Gogmantu had given you and were off making waves in the medical profession. Kaya, Msimang, you made him smile more than you could possibly know. And he was exceptionally happy with your growth and to see you walking into the house with a book every so often. A regret he had was the lack of closure with his daughter, Aunt Kosi, so this made a world of difference to him. Kingston Kaya, Granddad was excited to hear you were done with school and marveled when he saw you standing as an upright young man. Njele, you were always around to discuss some or other book with him, to keep him mentally stimulated or make some healthy smoothie. Mteni and Butamba, the old man was thrilled every time one of you came to him with a new certificate to discuss and illustrate the strides you were making academically and professionally. Mom, Grandpa said you were extraordinary. But you need to, and I quote here, stop running yourself haggard. Please heed him. You've done everything you could for both my grandparents, First in raising many of their grandkids, including us, over the years, and then for caring for both of them when the time came. As a family, we find ourselves incredibly fortunate to have you and find ourselves indebted to you for your graciousness and compassion. Dad, he was simply overjoyed every time you walked through the door. And when you weren't there until late evening, the question, "Where's your father?" would inevitably be asked. The love he had for you was deep. To the family team that was taking care of him at the very end, I would like to think that our 3-hour-a-night sleeps and our sometimes 6 hours on rotation at hospital was worth it. Rejecting the idea of a nursing team meant that he rested secured in the knowledge that he was loved, valued, and that he knew that he was proud of us all, that he was proud of us all in his own way. I'm glad we got to give you that one last sunset when we took you home for the day from hospital to throw you that surprise early 90th. Your reaction that day was wonderful. "Oh, is that the sunset? It's beautiful." When we took him to the hospital on the morning of the 2nd of December, When we took him to the hospital on the morning of the 2nd of December, right after he said to keep strong in a clear voice, I went, as was custom, to grip his right hand and kiss him on his shiny, light-reflecting head. Our typical way of saying goodbye. Can I get tissue?
It's okay, Papa. Here's some tissues. Thank you.
This time, I knew it was to say goodbye. I knew in my heart that it was the last time. I whispered to him, "Thank you, Mzee, for everything." His last words to me in a soft voice were, "No, Nati. Thank you for this. Thank you all for everything." And then he squeezed my fist firmly with what strength he still possessed. You want to take over from here? Okay, for a second. Is he going to finish it? You continue from Grandpa, there is too much. Okay. All right. So, you've done well. Okay. Grandpa, there is too much I shall miss. Your booming voice and deep laugh. Your ever willingness to listen to the tales about my day and offer your wisdom. Your witty comebacks and intellectual debates. Playing devil advocate just so you could fathom if I was actually learned enough on a specific topic or following certain populist rhetoric. Doing mundane things like holding your hand whilst getting groceries, or simply watching football every weekend or the UCL on weekdays. And listening to your stories of the past, for you are still an untapped encyclopedia. I am grateful for those stories that you did share. For example, the story of Tambo giving you his car when you were unlicensed and had to drive past police to deliver something important. You not being judgmental of others was always noted. You were not bothered by how people presented themselves and didn't stand on ceremony, but rather preferred that people were actually with you and honest to themselves. I'll definitely miss the fact that you had always been there for me. The twinkle of pride in your eyes as we stood together on that day of the 26th of April for my graduation, when I told you that paper was more yours than mine, which was true, as I had definitely lost interest in it at some point, and you convinced me to stay the course and maintain my discipline. You were unwell then, as we'd later realized, yet you willed your body to be there on that day for me. Honestly, I'll miss those twinkling blue eyes so much, especially when they danced with joy. Thank you for everything, Mzee. You will forever have a place in my heart. Rest well, my dear best friend. Sleep truly, knowing that you did what you could for this country and for your family. And you did it exceptionally well. Hamba kahle umkhulu wabotabizolo. At 9 decades today, a life well lived, it is only fitting that we allow you to rest peacefully and in power. Happy 90th birthday, you beautiful soul.
You did very well. That was beautiful. You did so well. Mkulu heard everything. I'm calling all the grandchildren to come up. Weabo, Nomkita, and all of the others come up. You know, I imagine that today we all would have been somewhere celebrating 90 years with Uncle Mendi. And he pulled a fast one on us, left 5 days before his birthday, but he knew what he was doing. He was convening all of us to be here, to come and sing and celebrate his 90th birthday with him. And here I have all his beautiful grandchildren. Are you all here? Sure. And they are going to lead us in wishing their grandfather happy 90 years. Together with all of us, we will sing happy birthday.
Oh, he has a good voice.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Granddad. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us, and so say all of us, and so say all of us, for he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Rest well, Granddad.
Thank you so much, Bashana Bami, and thank you for the grandkids coming to wish their granddad in only the way they know that they used to wish him happy birthday. I didn't know about that long fellow. Shaga, we heard that note you were talking about. We now have another musical item from the choir, the South African Air Force.
Once again, thank you so much to the grandchildren for that. God does work in mysterious ways, that He should have given us this great man on this day, and we lay him to rest on this day. We now go on to a tribute on behalf of the family that will be given by Dr. Mokete. Dr. Mokete, please.
Program directors, please allow me to pay my respects to all the dignitaries present here. Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, and the First Lady, honorable ministers, Your Excellencies, Msimang family and the related families, ladies and gentlemen. Protocol observed. This is a tribute and condolences for Mendi Msimang, born on the 8th of December 1928 and passed on officially on the 3rd, 12th, 2018. Biological age actually was 90 years plus. I'm counting from when the seed was planted. So in fact, he has completed his 90 years. I consider it a singular honor and privilege on this occasion to be given a chance for a tribute to my swar, brother-in-law, for those who don't know what swar means, and condolences to all those who were touched by him. Buti Menrad and I first met 52 years ago, 1966, October 16, to be exact, in Rome, Italy, when he had made it all the way from Morogoro to come and give away to me his youngest sister, who was a refugee from the then apartheid South Africa. He was in loco parentis because my parents-in-law could not get to Italy at that time. He did his assignment gracefully and became my brother-in-law. I became his brother-in-love. Because I was and am still in love with his sister to date. She's here. The key words he had for us were very brief indeed. He said, please remember that from today onwards, you are a husband and a wife. Unquote. We had just met for about 48 hours when, among other issues, we discussed politics. And I said to him reading Arola Nahenya Maburu, this is a Sotho novel by A. Nkeku, would serve as a quickest approach to defeating the Boers. He said he would give it a thought. For those of you who don't know what is contained in Arola Nahenya Maburu, he was a young Sotho boy or young Sotho man who was employed by the farmers in the Free State. And they gave him a hell of a time. And the last time he had really the thickest of it, he decided he was going to do something about it. What did he have? Nothing, except his brains. A matchstick and a matchbox. So he left for the farms and lit all the farms which were about ripe at the time, ready for harvesting. And the Boers rushed to the place with their help. And when they did that, he went to their homes, put up the fire in the stables and burned all the horses, burned the house and everything, and left. That was a good lesson to the neighboring Boers then, because they felt they could not punish an African boy as they had done with him. It may have very well been that the top hierarchy were not impressed by the indigenous effective guerrilla warfare tactics with a matchstick and a matchbox. Because by that time when we had the discussion on this, the country, big as it is, could have been overwhelmed by a few people who went for the railways or the rails, who went for the farms, who went for everything, and that would have really worked at that time. Even the aeroplanes would not have done the job. The Rome encounter was followed by consistent stalking, monitoring and spying on my wife and I, as well as our families for many years, to the extent that when our children grew up, they always wondered why the border police questioned and searched us intensively and regularly. The search was for Mendi and his whereabouts, with no success, luckily. To cut a long story short, let me say he lived up to his real name, Meinrad, which means great counsel, strong advisor. It's a German name, as he was very popular and hospitable, like his namesake, Saint Meinrad. Among his youth comrades, they decided, well, this is too long, Meinrad, let's make it short and make it Mendi. And that's what he's gone about popularly with since then. This was after, or rather it matched the sinking of the ship Mendi in during the First World War. He was a leader in his own right and talent. He listened, he learned, and led. He was exemplary, accessible, and accountable. Hence, he was entrusted with so many tasks in his life, in his lifetime. True to leadership tasks, he had direction. He sacrificed his comfort, as has already been said, for the sake of others. He was humble with an accommodating smile, inspiring and proactive. Like a true leader, whenever he fell, he rose up again to continue with his mission, as President Mandela said in some of his quotations. Many should take a leaf out of this chapter of Mendi's book of life. Many have enjoyed pearls of wisdom from this son of the soil. His diplomatic skills at all levels have contributed immensely to South Africa. South Africans and still unliberated minds at all levels. We have come to say goodbye to this great man, a patriot. All of us will miss him. However, let us remember that he was on a journey, as indeed all of us are individually. He suffered so much in the end. Credit, greatness, and honor goes to all those who cared for him in alleviating his suffering. His children, grandchildren, nephews, and others, a big thank you. Thanks to the Lord above for giving us this nice guy, Mendi. Rest in peace, Tabizolo. In Sesotho we say, Rwaballe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mugeti. We will now be requesting the President to come and address us. We will have an eulogy from His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, and to assist him on his feet to come to the podium, we will have a musical tribute. And I'd like you, please, to join us in this.
program directors, former President Kgalema Motlanthe and Gugu Motlanthe, ministers and deputy ministers, Premier of our province in Gauteng, David Makura, other premiers who may be here, and MECs, members of the judiciary, members of the Msimang family, fellow mourners, comrades and friends and fellow South Africans. We gathered here as a collective in solemn but also in a very celebratory mood, mourning, and to pay our last respects to a great South African whose life was dedicated to the cause of freedom. Mendi Msimang was the embodiment of an idea that is simple in conception, but